What's happening, Toku Nation, and welcome to a brand new video on the Fan-daption channel. And if you remember from the last video, I might have mentioned how I am sorry that I couldn't go back in time and stop Super Mega Force from happening. But in my absence, I have thought about this, and I took that idea, and I thought, what if I had the power to go back in time to stop Super Mega Force? And not just that, what if I had the power to go back in time and basically readapt Gokaiger? I mean, I know, super late to the party, but hey, I'm gonna do it anyway. And here's what it is, and I hope you enjoy. Allow me to set the stage. The Armada has taken control over the entire galaxy, enslaving some planets and destroying others. The Power Rangers tried to battle them, but after losing, they have been quiet and seemingly have disappeared. The Armada has taken this and proclaimed victory over the Power Rangers, saying their return will never happen. And for a while, this is the case, and no one has been able to stand against the Armada since then. That is until a certain pirate starts making waves through his actions in his one-man crusade against them, liberating smaller planets, but then moving on to larger ones. This creates a bounty on the pirate's head, and it racks up more and more as he fights against them. Who is this man? Well, he is the Red Ranger of our series, and this guy is named Captain Charlie, and his story starts with episode 1, when he arrives on Earth with the sole purpose to retrieve the Ranger Keys and liberate the entire planet. He crashes on the planet after succeeding to break through the Armada blockade around it. He lands in a city called Milk Creek, and after fighting some foot soldiers that attempt to capture him, he would meet a young boy, Jasper, and his father, Xavier. The two of them would give Charlie a meal and some assistance on how to find the rest of the Ranger Keys. The Armada has set monsters in the major cities that Power Rangers have fought in, and the monsters have those Ranger Keys of the teens that fought there. So he'll have to go to those cities in order to retrieve those keys. Jasper also displays his love for the Power Rangers and hopes that they will return. But this moment is interrupted by a monster that shows up and threatens the family's lives if Charlie doesn't come with him so he can gather the ransom that he has racked up with his space battles. Charlie obliges and goes with the monster. One rescue attempt from the family later leads to Charlie morphing into the Red Marauder Ranger, then fighting the monster, showing off the powers that he's acquired from the other planets. Those powers being Lost Galaxy, Alien Rangers, Zeo, and In Space. After defeating the monster, Charlie thanks the family and is on his way. But Xavier gives him a new ally, a robot bird that can act as a navigator named Mozel. Jasper asks if they'd ever meet again, and Charlie smirks and says, maybe, and then he leaves. In the end, he looks at the 4 Marauder keys he has left. He knows he can't do this alone anymore, so now he is off to find the rest of his crew. And with the bounty increasing, he will need some help, since his problems have the potential to becoming bigger than he can handle alone. So then the next 4 episodes will be dedicated to this, as he would go to these cities and find the rest of his crew, along with the rest of the Ranger Keys that he is missing. We meet our first crewmate in Ocean Bluff, and a woman named Helena, who is an amazing pizza chef and a phenomenal fighter. With her help, Charlie obtains the Jungle Fury Keys. Charlie is impressed by not just her fighting ability, but also her pizza making, and offers her a spot on the team, which she agrees to join. Then we meet our Green Ranger in Briarwood, and a young elvish man named Keith, who has an affinity for magic, but struggles in doing it himself. He may not seem like much, but he did help the two gain the Mystic Force keys, and seemingly reminds Charlie of an old friend of his, so he offers Keith a spot on the team, which he takes without second thought, since he's always wanted to be a Power Ranger. Our Pink Ranger we meet in Angel Grove, Kara, who is a scientist and inventor who loves space and wishes to see it all. She shows her expertise through leading the repair of the ship, which was damaged back in episode 1. This is enough to push Charlie into asking her to join the team, promising that she'll be able to see all of space if she does. She agrees, and they go and retrieve the Mighty Morphin Power Ranger keys. Last but not least, we meet Matthew, our Blue Ranger in Paranormal City, where he is a samurai leading a resistance force against the Armada there. Matthew would offer to join the team, but Charlie wants to see what he's really made of. So they duel, and through Charlie's defeat, Matthew is given the Blue Ranger power. and the 5 of them together are able to defeat the monster and gain the Samurai Ranger keys. So now, at this point, the team is finally united, and all the Ranger keys have been retrieved. This will make liberating the planet a lot easier. At least, that would be the case, until some enemies would join the fray. Episode 6 would introduce the prince and his cronies, and they would launch an attack on Milk Creek, and the Rangers would hurry and fight off the attackers, pushing a retreat. Charlie would catch up with Jasper and Xavier, and they would meet the crew. But this reunion is cut short when Charlie tells his crew that they'll need to find a better way to fight that plays up to each other's strengths. Through some training, they find the best way to fight is by swapping weapons. Helena's and Matthew's background in swordsmanship makes them perfect for dual-wielding swords, and Keith and Kara's inexperience in battle makes them great for range attacks, so they'll get dual blasters. The next time that they fight the monster from earlier, they are able to beat them with the most efficiency. However, their victory is short-lived, since now their enemies can grow bigger. This poses a problem, but not for long, as Charlie has Ozil bring the Marauder Galleon, and the Rangers take their battle stations, releasing each Zord individually before coming together to create the Marauder Legend Megazord, and together are able to wipe out their enemy. Once the battle is over, Charlie sends a message to the prince, saying if he wants this planet, he'll have to go through them first. Charlie takes this to an advantage, since now the prince will be so enraged, he will target the city and them in it. So now a long and grueling fight awaits them. The crew would stay with Jasper and Xavier as their city has now become a prime target for monster attacks. Charlie vows that he will keep the city safe and fight against all threats that would come their way. The group celebrates their victory, but in the distance, we see something watching them, and then they leave. So now, with the team assembled, main villains established, and an arsenal at hand, the show can launch into high gear. But before we end, let's do a rundown on the characters. Starting off with Charlie, he is comical and confident. He cares about his team very much, but for some reason seems to be a little distant. Almost like he's hiding something. Moving on to Helena, who is more serious and driven, who has this aura that demands respect, and isn't afraid to call someone out for their crap. Then we have Keith, who is more insecure about his abilities of being a Power Ranger. And since he has no fight training or anything else that will be really useful, he doesn't really know why he was on the team, and now feels the need to prove himself in any way that he can. Then we have Kara, who is the brilliant mind and tactician, who will later put her skills to good use as the battle rages on. Similar to Keith, she doesn't really have any fighting training, but will seek out growth in the future. And last, to round out the Rangers, we have Matthew, a cool-headed fighter that always was looking out for the others. When they need strategy, he's the guy to go to, and never back down from a challenge or a battle. The 5 of them make our main team, with Jasper and Xavier acting as support. Jasper would aspire to be like a Power Ranger, always doing the right thing and pushing for the little guy, while his father will act as a sort of father figure for the others, so they can stay on track. So with the hero side done, let's move on to the villain side. Bakar is comically incompetent, but wants to come off as very competent, even though we all know that he can't actually fight to save his life. Literally. He is also prideful and also prone to anger, which doesn't make him all that intimidating. Then we move on to Levira, who is our scientist on board. She's also responsible for making the monsters grow every episode, who seemingly is more interested in her own science experiments rather than anything the Armada is actually doing, let alone their whiny prince. Then there's Damaris, who is the prince's assistant and also advisor, but sometimes gets fed up with the prince and ends up acting impulsively to try to stop the Rangers himself, which goes as well as you can expect. He's only really there because Vakar's father asked him. And lastly, we have Argus, who is a robotic swordsman, who doesn't really talk much, if at all. It's a mystery why he's there, but he's there anyway, so Argus is used as a bodyguard for the prince. And with that, that's all of the characters. At least, for now. So what do you guys think of that? I think it's pretty solid, but I would love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. This is only part 1 of this entire saga, and hopefully you guys will stick around for the rest of it. If you want to, be sure to subscribe, hit that bell so you don't miss it, and also hit a like. With all that being said, that's all, and I'll see you all next time. Peace. 3, 2, 1.